They already told us that if you fail, you are not going to become a doctor. So if you fail this exam, you're not going to come to clinicals. If you fail this exam, your boyfriends will break up with you. If you fail this exam, nobody's going to talk to you. Someone literally told me that if I fail the exam, I'm from Abia State, and he's also from Abia State. He's a senior colleague of mine. If I fail this exam, we are not going to be sisters and brothers again.
You spent 9 good years in medical school.
Yeah. But what really pushed me back up was I called my dad and I told my dad that I had failed the exam and I had to repeat the year. So prior to this exam, my sister wrote this exam 2-3 years ago and she also failed.
My goodness.
To be honest, I don't know if we can blow this part, but I feel like the ground should just open and I should enter inside. That was literally the hardest point of my life. There was a technique to pass this exam. A very, very interesting technique that I didn't know.
Valerie Okore, you are a medical doctor at University College Hospital, Ibadan, and also you are the CEO of Creator MD. Now, we would love to know, if you could go back to your 100 level self, what are the 6 things about studying medicine in Nigeria you actually wished someone had sat you down and told you early?
Okay, I think number one thing would be to not be afraid, and to not feel intimidated by the medical students around you. When you get to medical school, especially in 100 level, you are like the best in your school, in quotes. Most medical students, they are the best in their school. And you start meeting other people that, this one was the best, this one was also the best. So you start feeling like, I'm not it's not only me, and that kind of demoralizes you and makes you not want to achieve more, right? Or it makes you, which is going to be the second thing I would say, start being in a competition with others. So the second thing would be, someone would have told me would have been, don't enter into a competition with others. The only person that you should be in a competition with is yourself. And these 2 things are very important. Number 3 would be, have a goal, have a vision for yourself, right? Being a doctor is not the end goal. I know that's why you entered medical school, but that should not be the end goal, because that would be the 4th thing I would say. I'm joining them together, right? So the first one was don't be afraid. Second one was don't be in a competition. The third is have a goal. And the 4th would be to know that you are going to spend at least 7 to 9 years in medical school. This is the 4th. This is so important because most times you enter medical school, say at 16, and like, by 22, 21, I would have graduated, and 7 years later, you're still in medical school. This puts you into depression. So you knowing on time, no matter if the school tells you that, we are different, we're not going to do like that, this says you will graduate on time. I'm not saying that you should not be happy that you graduate on time. I'm saying that just prepare your mind that even if you are going to graduate later or earlier, I'm ready for the outcome. And this will bring me to the 5th one, which means that if you are ready for the outcome, that means you have to be prepared. You have to prepare yourself to be a different person on that outcome. So from your 100 level, you have to realize that because you are spending 7+ years in medical school, your mates who entered school with you at that 100 level, they would be at least 3 to 4 years ahead of you by the time you are leaving by the time you are now a doctor. So these people have some 4 years of life experience, because whether you like it or not, you are still in school. Even if you are 31, even if you are 28, even if you are 26, 25, by the time you become a doctor, you are still in school. So there are a lot of experiences that you don't have, that your colleagues who finished 4 years earlier, right, have already developed. Things like financial skills, things like emotional intelligence, things like being able to cope with stress, being able to cope with people in the work environment. These are things that you did not have because you are in school, right? You are busy just going and studying. So because you lack these skills, the 5th point for me would be to prepare yourself for who you are going to become when you are finishing medical school. So learn the skills, read about emotional intelligence, read about financial management. These are things they will never teach you in medical school. So from your 100 level, you should have the mindset that you need to prepare yourself for who you are going to be when you come out. And the 6th advice I would give any medical students is to keep going and study. So keep going. You fail, keep going. You have a problem, keep going. No matter what, follow your mates. Don't fail. Don't fail. Because it's the fear of failure that makes you fail. But when you keep going, they say study, study. They say prepare for an exam, prepare. Don't be afraid of the exam. Just keep going. And trust me, if you keep going, even if you fail, but you keep going, you find out 7 years later, 9 years down the line, you are out of medical school and you are not just a doctor. You are someone that has vision, that has a dream, and you are better than your peers and also better than those that have come out 4 or 5 years before you.
Wow, wow, wow. These are wonderful things that I believe they need to actually be aware of before they graduate. I believe even before they kickstart their journey at medical school. Now, I'm curious, by 2026, you'll be turning 26 years old. Now, I would love to
Yes.
know, how old were you when you entered medical school?
Oh my God. Actually, I entered medical school at I like to say 16, but I entered medical school at 15 because that was December of 2015. But since it was December, let's just say January, right? So I turned 16 in February. So I entered medical school at 15. So, but I just say 16 so that I leave everybody at where they are. But I entered medical school at 15. I spent nine years in medical school, and because I had a repeat year, so we'll talk. Let's just be going. Let's just be going. Let's be going. So yeah, I
Wow.
was 15 when I entered medical school.
You spent 9 good years in medical school.
Yes,
My
yes.
goodness, my goodness. That's quite a fraction of your life spent in a particular
Honestly,
environment. You know, um, I spent, my journey was actually meant to be 5 years, but due to strike and all, I spent 7 years on campus. Now, hearing 9 years, this is actually a good number of years that someone can actually look at and be like, what am I even going to get out of this thing? I beg, let me just give up and move to another discipline and all. But then again,
yeah,
it takes discipline, it takes love, and let me not call it consistency, persistence to actually follow through to the ninth year. But there was something that you mentioned that I think I didn't get you correctly, but let me not assume. You said you had an issue in a particular year.
yeah, yeah. So while in medical school, in my third year, so the third year we write an exam called it's called the second MBS exam. So people call it the first MBS exam. So this exam is what they call the rate limiting step. That means if you don't pass the exam, you cannot move to the next class, right? If you pass, you move to clinical, and not just next class. This exam is what separates you from being a normal student who just reads and from being a clinical student who reads and also sees patients. So it's actually a very important exam. And I wrote that exam. You were supposed to get 3/3 to pass that exam, and I got 1/3. And like 1.5/3, so I could not pass. So I had to repeat the year again, and that's what made it. My colleagues spent 8, so me I spent 9. Yeah.
Wow. I would love to go much more in depth in this line. When you got the result that you got 1.5/3, and by standard you are meant to get 3/3 to proceed to the next level. At that point, how did you feel?
Like I felt, to be honest, I don't know if we can blow this part, but I felt like the ground should just open and I should enter inside. That was literally the hardest point of my life. If you had asked me this question 3, 4 years ago, I would literally be in tears. If you had asked me this question last year, I would also still be in tears. I think I have a video that I made on YouTube about this same thing that I was literally in tears. But that's the thing about failure. Failure is a stepping stone to success. And once you look at failure in the eyes and say, this didn't destroy me, this built me up, you will no longer be afraid of it. And after I made that video trying to encourage people that have failed, now I really do not, I'm happy. I'm very excited that I actually failed because it's something that I use to encourage others that they too can come out of whatever situation they found themselves. I believe anyone who does not have a failure story has not even started. They have not started. But so I failed that exam. So there's nothing like they won't call it 1.5 because it's 3 papers: physiology, biochemistry, and anatomy. So I passed my physiology in flying colors. My anatomy, I was like let's say 40 something, right? And you needed a 50 to pass. And my biochemistry, I was like really, really low, like 30 something or so. So when I had that result, I didn't even look at the result with my eyes. I called a friend, and they were like, Valerie, you got 1/3. And I was like, Jesus, I never looked at that paper. I didn't see today. I never saw my result. Like never. I mean, I never saw my result. It was just something that they said on phone. I never looked at it because I did not believe it was mine, and I never accepted, like, how will I put it? I never said that was mine. When I passed, when I rewrote and I got 3/3, I looked at it, I snapped it, I said, this is my result, right? Because we don't accept failure. We see it and we become better. So when I failed, it was actually very sad, honestly. But what really pushed me back up was I called my dad and I told my dad that I had failed the exam and I had to repeat the year. So prior to this exam, my sister wrote this exam 2, 3 years ago and she also failed, right? So I already knew that, people can fail this exam. And when she failed, my father was like, you failed, don't worry, let's take you abroad. My sister went to the Caribbean and she was now abroad. So I don't know, maybe there was this subconscious in my mind that if I fail, I would go abroad, right? Like, wow, it's not really that bad, that all my siblings studied medicine abroad and I was the only one studying medicine in Nigeria. And I was like, is it that my parents are now broke? Why am I studying medicine in Nigeria? And when I failed, I was like, maybe now I can go abroad. Oh, thank God. That was the first. So it's like stages of grief. There's denial, and there's delulu, right? I started becoming delusional that I'm going to go abroad. And then when I called my dad was like, you failed. I failure is normal. Oh. If you have not failed, you've not started medical school. I don't worry, you will repeat the year and you do it. That's when I started crying. Oh. I cried before, but like I was consoling myself that I will go abroad, right? And that is when I started crying. I was crying. God, that was very hard. But my dad told me that failure was normal. And he sent me my flight ticket and I flew back home. And I stayed home for as long as I stayed at home. And I came back to school. And when I came back, I was no longer with my previous class because I had to repeat the year. And I would cry. Every time someone walked past me, I saw an old classmate, a tear would drop. I'll be smiling. They'll be like, Valerie, how are you? I'll be smiling. As they are leaving, my eyes are full of tears and I'm crying. Because I'm like, it was very sad. But one thing I know that I did, and I would encourage anybody, any medical students watching this right now, was I didn't remain in that year. Like, even while I was crying, I was preparing myself for the next phase. I went to, because if you pass that exam, you move over to clinicals. So I went to the clinical class, right? I went there knowing nobody and I sat down in the class and I wrote my name on the table, just a small place. I wrote my name on the table and I said, this is where I'm going to sit after I pass the exam. I did not say when I passed the exam. I said, once I pass the exam. In my mind, I've already pictured that I'm going to pass the exam and I've already pictured where I'm going to sit in the new class. Because I already know that I'm going to pass, I have to prepare to pass. And I know that I like fish. That time I liked fish, barbecue fish. So I had to finish some textbooks. So I drew on my wall a very beautiful fish. I took the picture. I went to go and make a notice board and I pinned the fish on the notice board. And I said, if I finish this textbook, I will buy myself this barbecue fish. If I finish this topic, I will buy myself this. Even when I did not have money, I was like, I told my friends that, guy, if I read this in fish, I'll tell you, buy this fish for me. And that's how I was finishing my topics. I was reading and I was reading. And the best part was that I was not just reading and reading alone. I was working on myself. I was making videos of me studying. And because I was so sad and crying, that was when I started journaling. I journaled throughout the year 2018/2019. I brought out a book and I called that book Me and My Feelings. Because every time I saw a old classmate pass, I would cry. So I would write, why am I crying? Valerie, how are you feeling this morning? Are you okay? Because I cried every single day that year. It was a very hard experience. But once I passed that exam, it felt like a big weight had left me. So there's a lot about studying tips and stuff that maybe if we ask those questions, I can answer. But it was an emotional time for me. What I did was I first of all prepared my mind that I am going to pass. There was no other option that I would pass. The second thing was I studied. And the last was I dedicated myself to Christ. I would pray. I remember every exam. I can't forget. After the exam, I would go to church. I would run and I'll pray. My friends would be like, oh, let's go and eat. I did not eat though. I would walk straight to church and I would go there and I would pray. And I did not just pray, I would praise and thank God for passing my exams. And when I passed, I knew I wasn't afraid of passing. And I was so grateful to God and thankful that I passed and moved over to the clinical.
Wow. This is quite a journey. If not if giving me this backlog, I'm like, how? Students won't even have known that the lady that is a medical doctor at Ibadan College Hospital and also the CEO of Creator Medics actually left a year. My goodness. Still on that, there are two questions that came to my mind. And because I read a lot of John Maxwell's materials a lot, not particularly his my namesake as well. Now, there is a book he wrote about leaders, that leaders really don't fail. Leaders, they learn. Sometimes he put it in this line, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Now, if you must fail,
You learn.
leaders fail forward. Now, I would
Yes.
love to know, because I believe you are someone that takes joy in thinking about your life, having an introspection about your life and why things happen to you. Do you know, like, reason or two reasons why you actually failed in that year?
I do. I 100% do. So being very honest is very hard. So one of the first reasons I failed was I didn't take stock of what the exam was and what it entailed and what I needed to pass. I thought it was another exam that I would just read like every other person and pass, because that's what I did. In my 100 level, I was crushing it. I was having A's, right? I read like maybe 3 or 4, 5 days or a week to my exam and I would crush the exam, right? I finished the whole of my physics textbook. 100 level, they usually have the physics textbook. I finished it in just 2 days. So I thought it was just like that. But when I got to 200 level and I started hearing things like the anatomy of the head, they will mention clavicle, humerus, like these were things that you've never heard in your life, right? They will tell you to the midbrain, this, and you cannot. I'm telling you, and if any medical student watching this, Nigerian students reading this, watching this, you cannot finish a textbook like this in 2 days. You cannot finish it in 1 week. You cannot finish it in 1 month, right? So I didn't take stock of what the exam entailed. That was the number one thing. Number two was I was highly distracted. And I don't mean distracted by that I was not studying. I mean distracted mentally. I was like, oh, what if I fail? What if I fail? What if I fail? Because they already told us that if you fail, you are not going to become a doctor. If you fail, every time our senior colleagues will come to our class. So if you fail this exam, you're not going to come to clinicals. If you fail this exam, your boyfriends will break up with you. If you fail this exam, nobody's going to talk to you. Someone literally told me that if I fail the exam, I'm from Abia State, and he's also from Abia State. He's a senior colleague of mine. If I fail this exam, we are not going to be sisters and brothers again. Imagine someone telling you that. Like your senior colleague is telling you that if you fail, that two of you are not going to be brothers and sisters again. Those things, instead of spurring you to read, they instill fear in you. So I will be reading right now and I'll be afraid. I'll start thinking, what if I fail? And I'll start reading again. Then I'll feel overwhelmed. I can't forget that night. There was one afternoon I was reading intensely and I was so angry and I threw my desk and my table and I started crying. This was before the first exam I wrote. I started crying. And after I finished crying, I laid on my bed, opened Netflix. It was this next, as in this movie website, and I started watching film. I watched film from 4 p.m. in the afternoon to 12 midnight. So that exam, right? Because fear gripped me from studying. As I was watching a film, I was afraid though, but I was more afraid of studying than I was afraid of watching a movie. It was easier to watch a movie than it was study. I had friends, I had people, and the third thing was there was a technique to pass this exam. A very, very interesting technique that I didn't know. And it was simple papers, past questions. If you're a Nigerian medical student and you do not use past questions, you are wrong. I have videos that I talk about the importance of past questions. Like, I didn't do past questions. I had classmates and colleagues that would go and do past questions and answer them, and they would not even tell you, right? Because medical school, oh my gosh, I did clinicals. There's this competition. People would be doing things. They will be hiding. They will be reading. They will be hiding. And me, I'm like, why are you people hiding? There's no need, I did not know what they were hiding. I was supposed to put my head on the ground and find out what is that thing they are hiding and why are they hiding. And all they were hiding was just simple past papers that you can find anywhere. So one reason why I failed was I was afraid to my bones. Two, I was distracted mentally. I did not know that I can pass. I knew I was intelligent, but I felt so overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is a very bad thing for exams. Number three is I did not know the secret to passing was past papers. Once I solved these three problems by one, curing failure by putting on scriptures. The Bible says that fear not, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. I said that scripture every day throughout my exam. Every time I felt afraid, I will mention that word. I poured scriptures into my mind to clear out fear. Two, in terms of distraction, I told you I went to sit down in the class and say I will be sitting down here when I pass this exam. And number three, I got every single past question known to man. I brought out 3 long notebooks for each of the topics and I answered them the way I will answer it in exam. I brought out my textbook, the past questions, I will answer them directly. When it was 2 to 3 weeks to the exam, I was not reading I was just reading the question and the answer. The question and the answer. So when I go to the exam hall, I saw the question. I saw this question yesterday now. I know the answer. And I did not just know the answer. I knew exactly how I would answer it in exam. So I was not arranging it in the exam. This will be here. I've already arranged it in my mind and in my textbook. So it was just copy and paste. That's the magic of past papers. And that's how I pass. So passing is not magic, right? It's actually actual preparation. And that's how it happened.
Wow. Of a truth, failure always leave pointers. At least it has actually opened your mind now.
It did.
And I believe Nigerian students can actually glean from your experience and run with the wonderful wisdom which you've actually unleashed for us, to run with. And thank you so much for that. Now, for us to actually switch to the next conversation, that is this question that we have started incorporating into our podcast. Now, it's outside our conversation, but we really need to just watch your intellect. Now, we want you to tell our audience to subscribe and like this video without using the word subscribe and like.
Okay. That's very interesting. So, people following Nigeria Student Podcast, this is one of the best podcasts. Actually, you being able to get that insight from Nigerian Student Podcast is an amazing thing. And I want you to, keep up with them, really follow them as much as possible. And I promise you, if you follow them, at least watch them and see the people that they have, spoken to, the knowledge that they have dropped, right? You would not regret it. You honestly love it so much. So stick with them. I mean, stick with them like glue, right? And everything they do, really, really enjoy it. And I promise you, you will not regret it. Yeah.
Wow. If I'm to grade you now, I will give you 60%. 60%. I love the way you used the word stick with them. You are trying your best to actually coin a word for like, but then again, you would have used press that hand thumbs up button.
Okay, I should not mention. Okay, yes. Okay, see. Okay, let me turn that one again. So hit the notification button, right? The bell, hit the notification button, and hit the thumbs up button, right? And there's also a red button that is big, like this. You cannot miss it. It's not red, it's not black. Hit that button, and follow them up as.
All right. Thank you so much, Doc. Now, we want to talk about your professional career. Now, you are a medical doctor. And it's not an easy thing to actually graduate and get a job, I believe, in the medical industry if you don't understand your onions. Now, we would love to know how did you get your job?
Well,